Okay, it's about midnight here at the hangar, and reached a big milestone. Time for another update. Okay, as you saw in the beginning there, the airplane's back at its, or I should say, the airplane's finally at its permanent home, and looks a lot different. Big tires are pulled off, so we can work on it, and the main thing is here we got all the avionics and all the wiring done. It's all bundled up, looking really good. It's hanging off the front here is going to go through the firewall, and all the NHA's on. Thanks a lot to my friend Terry for coming out and helping with that. He really helped me get straightened out, and worked out really good. But here's the cool thing we wanted to see. Got the G3X installed in the comm radio GTR 200, and the 345R under there. We got the USB port, the 12 volt, the music. We got the 12 volt back here. All the under seat wiring's done. All zip tied really nice. We got a battery just sitting here right now, so I could test the system. I wanted to fire it up and make sure everything worked. This is the battery tray that actually sits in here and looks real nice. And then that's a battery just like that. That's an old battery, will fit in here really nice. Front and rear control sticks are temporarily installed so we can test the trim system. Anyway, why don't we fire this thing up. Master on. Hear the click. Oh boy. Take a second to boot. There we go. Pretty cool. Cub Crafters has a data file that you load to configure this, and so all the engine parameters are already installed for the engine monitoring. So this is cylinder head temp, exhaust gas temp, fuel flow, volts, amps. You can do your fuel planning, fuel calculations. So it's a really handy tool. Of course, these things are not all hooked up because the engine's not on, but there you can see it's there. We have our trim indicator, we'll have an AOA. What's black right now will actually show synthetic vision, so I'll see a 3D world behind that overlaid there. And we can do a split screen, and what's really cool is to show the map. We can scroll in or out. That's Garmin's map with its terrain and all the airspace. We can do a sectional map that's what would normally come if normally what you'd look at as a pilot. That's a pilot's version of a map. Waypoint info, so the info of where we're at. Arlington's my home base. Frequencies there. Oh, this is kind of cool too. If you plug in a frequency, it'll highlight up there, and then you can just flop it back and forth, which is really cool. And it's tied to the comm radio. It's all in together, along with the audio panel for that. It's just the coolest stuff. And the transponder is also obviously tied into that, which is really sweet. It all works really well. So anyway, yeah, you can go through the waypoint page. Gives you even the approach plates for the charts for if you're flying an instrument approach. The flight plan page, we can put our flight plans in there. Weather data, terrain page. This is Sirius XM if I want to listen to music. Yeah, and the engine page. So amazing piece of equipment there. Really excited to have that. It's going to work really good. You can see we got the knobs in. Everything's in for the panel. Right, left ignition. We can see that the right's out because we're on the left only. Left is out because that. And we go to both, they turn both off. So that's just to test that. It's all working. It's all good to go. So except for the sensors that aren't hooked up, because the engine's not on, but I wanted to test it before our next step, which is to put the boot cowl on. Pretty cool. I guess I should probably show you the trim. It's right here. So we just, this go up and down, and it controls the trim in the back there for the, hear that noise? Changing the whole plane of the tail there, which is a new thing as well. I got the tail feathers on. Yeah, so this the tail feathers was quite a big job. We first had to put the horizontals in, and they go through that jack screw actuator that you could hear going up and down. That's that jack screw, and there's like a pipe that goes through here, and then you drill and bolt this. And the manual says you gotta find it, but these are actually pre-drilled with a pilot hole, so it's actually pretty easy to get these in. A good sharp bit goes right through, and you don't have to worry about being centered because there's pilot holes top and bottom. So that worked out pretty good. It was pretty snug to get it to fit. I did deburr it with some sandpaper, and I had a friend, my buddy Todd, on the other side, and me pushing on this side, and they slid right in nice, and they're nice and tight on front and back. So that's all good. Once those are in, we squared it up with these wires here, these brace wires that are on top and bottom, and leveled the fuselage with some shims, and then used a plumb bob and a digital level to set these square and level, and then tensioned them like we tension the brace wires in the wing. So these have a certain tension on them. And then once that's done, we installed the elevators, and that was really easy. Slid some pins in and cotter pinned them with washers on either side, and hooked up the control cables for the elevator that go to the sticks up front. So those are actually hooked up. The only really hard part about doing this for me was getting the spring installed. There's a spring right here. That spring was a pain in the neck to install. That's not rust, that's polybrush from the color of the glue for the fabric, as you saw in the earlier videos, is red there. But there's covers that go over that to cover all that up, but for right now, that's the way that's set. So yeah, the tail feathers are on. That was a full day's worth of work for me as a rookie, but worked out pretty good. Actually, this thing's only been here for, I don't know, maybe a week. I've been working on and off as much as I can, but of course I have to work as well. But I got the stripes on too, which looks really, really cool. So we got some more graphics to put on the tail, but the stripes look awesome. So yeah, good job, Sean and Jeff. Thanks a lot for that. And yeah, so then the next step is this boot cowl. So let's go take a look at that. Oh, and before we get over to the boot cowl here, a couple other assemblies we got put in this week. The flap handle's in. I love how it's up here, up high. Most bush planes, the flap's down low. So you're reaching down to do something. I love how they're up here, so you don't have to contort your body or get your concentration from outside the cockpit. They're just up here and you grab, and it's nice. You can see the detent up there. And the way these work is they just move this rod that hooks to move this lever that hooks to a rod that actuates the flaps. So really simple, strong system. Also got the interior panel final assembled, got my pockets in there, and also the throttle assemblies, which is pretty cool. It's dual throttles, they're interconnected, so like you can have full control in the back seat. We got that going. Carbon fiber, really cool stuff. So yeah. Okay, so yeah, we assembled the boot cowl earlier, and then you saw us mount it up and for painting, so we could get the stripes lined up right. And then brought it back here, and you have to populate all the hardware and grommets on this thing before you install it, because you just can't get to the back side of it. And so we got all the grommets in here. There's one discrepancy there. This one shows two different sizes in two different places, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do there yet. I think I'd rather have a bigger one than one that's too small. So I'm going to go with the bigger one for now, and then figure out what I'm going to do there. But it's real specific as to what goes where in these. For all those wires that go through the firewall to the engine. This right here is the heater box. Heat will come off the engine, and then this flap is controlled by the knob in the cockpit to allow heat that's closed, and that'll allow heat in, and you can have it adjusted at different lengths for the amount of heat you want. This is gascolator. This comes from the fuel system, hooks to there, and this collects sediment and water, and then also takes fuel for the priming system to prime the engine when it's cold. So that's all mounted and done. And we got the pitot-static, the static ports in there. Pretty simple. I was a little bit concerned about putting this really nice, this is the insulated vinyl mat that goes in here, and you have to do a spray glue on this and then stick it in, and spray glue is, to me, just a disaster. But it was actually really easy, worked out really good. Spray glued it down, and then all the grommets go through. Got them all nice and pretty and tucked underneath there, so it all fits well. All the screws go through for those hardware and brackets that we need to do. And then also trimmed out around the engine mounts, because we want the engine mount, those 4 holes right there, the ones that don't have any grommets in them, is where the bolts are gonna go through for the engine mount. And you can see the engine mount, this little guy down here, the bolt goes through that and then through these holes here. And the paint's been also taken off these because this will be the main ground for the from the engine to the fuselage. So anyway, that's all done and tested, looking good. We've got our control cables in here for mixture, cabin heat. Got our primer lines, got them. Double heat shrink to go through the firewall. Our 2 fuel lines, our fuel and our sump. We got our starter wire here. It's going to go through all of our engine monitoring wires and our alternator wires here. We've got our this is the cabin heat. Sorry, cabin heat. This is carb heat. Cabin heat here. We've got our manifold pressure tube. So we got our manifold pressure sensor. I moved this one into here because I wanted to be able to reach it because once the boot cowl goes on, I'm not going to be able to reach the sensor. So if I ever need to replace it, I've got it so I can reach it from inside the cockpit and do that. But got all that done. The T's in here to our ignition box. We got right and left ignition boxes. So dual ignition redundancy in airplanes. You have 2 separate systems, and if one fails, you've got a whole nother one. And backup battery for the ignition system. So this ignition system is a digital ignition. It's not a magneto. Traditionally, airplanes have a mechanical device to give spark. More modern stuff is digital electronic. It works a lot better, in my opinion. It just if you have a main battery failure, then you've got a backup battery, so you can still have spark in case something fails. And we got a backup battery for the Avionics right here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A lot of wires, a lot of testing, but it all worked out really good. I got this all heat shrinked and wrapped up here. We got our angle of attack and pitot lines coming up through here. They're going to attach to the wing in here. Outside temperature probe here. Got our lights. They're going to go to our wing for the landing light and the nav and the nav and strobe. We got all of our wiring in for our headsets and our trim. This is actually an add-on, so we can have trim on the back stick as well, so I can sit in the back seat and fly and maybe teach somebody from the front. So that's all in there. What else can I show you? This other side, same thing. Fuel lines and lights in here. And we got kind of a cool thing here. We got a cabin light in here. And Cub Crafters pre-makes all these panels and labels them. So while there's a lot going on here, all this wiring is cut to length, and almost all of it is terminated. There's very few solders you have to do, and very few connectors you have to mess with in this kit. It's a lot to do, but it's all in here, and this is a huge step. So really excited about that. Oh yeah, one more kind of cool thing too. This is actually a GPS antenna and a comm antenna in one. And this will sit on top here. This will sit up here on top of this piece of metal here, the turtle deck. We have it plugged in just to test the system, and the transponders dangling there off that. We got our termination in for our ELT right here. So yeah, this was a big step. Sorry to ramble on. Huge step to get this in so that we can check that out. We can move on to the next step, which will be put that boot cowl on and get this engine mounted. One step closer to going flying. All right, catch you on the next one. After all that excitement, I couldn't quit. It's 2:30 in the morning now, but got the boot cowl on. Yeah, buddy. Man, this looks good. Looking so much better. Used these 4 rods in the engine mount holes to slide it down and pulled all the wires and cables through the firewall there. I even got the felt in that goes in between the panel and the boot cowl. I had a heck of a time trying to get that in, and then I just grabbed one of these plastic interior tools, and man, it went in super easy at that point. It's a really tight fit. I still have to fit this and screw it so that this is all fit nice and flush, but it's 2:30 in the morning. I'm going home. All right, let's get this engine on here tomorrow.